Good morning. It is Sunday and I have a sewing project that I have been excited to do for a long time. Today's the day. I have like a whole afternoon free, so I'm going to try to make this shirt from top to bottom. Here's the concept. So this summer I learned how to shirr. I self-drafted this top. This was modeled after this Peachy Den set. Super cute, super comfortable. I loved wearing it all summer. The shirring is just so flattering on everyone, but you have to do basically no shaping. Like this was made with just 2 rectangles and then the shirring does all the work. So I want to make a top like that, but add sleeves. I have these dresses from Opera Studio that are basically the same concept. It's all shirred in the body and then there are some shirred sleeves as well. And what I love about these is that it's gathered at the cap of the sleeve and then the shirring doesn't start until maybe like around here. And I think that makes such an interesting shape for the sleeve. But I think the sleeve makes it a little bit more wearable for me now that we're getting into the autumn. Plus, this is not what I'm making today, but hypothetically in the future, if I can figure out how to self-draft a top like that, I could basically make this Opera Studios dress. I have a free pattern out for a bubble skirt. So if I can figure out the top, I already know how to do a bubble skirt. I could just put them together and boom, I know how to make this. This dress has actually been inspiration for me for like a few years. I was like, wow, I'd love to be, a good enough sewist to make something like this. I'm kind of getting there piece by piece, Now I know how to shirr. Today we're gonna do sleeves. We know how to do a bubble skirt. And by the end of today, when I wear this dress out and people say, oh my gosh, did you make that? I want to be able to say no, but hypothetically I could have. I have a fun plaid fabric for today. Ooh, it's getting so bright in here. Check that out. So it's like red, blue, a little bit of purple, and I just think this is super cute for autumn. When I'm shirring, something I'm aware of is that it is a lot easier when you use fabric that has lines in it, because without a lot of measuring, you can just sew directly onto the lines and know that it's going to be straight. So I think that's gonna make my job a little easier today. Plus with shirring, I love something like this where there's just lots of different like colors and shapes going on, because obviously as it like shirrs and expands when you put it on, you see a bit of the pattern, but mostly what's important is that there's just like lots of cool stuff going on because it will get scrunched a bit. I've already cut out my 2 body pieces because I'm starting it by basically doing the exact same thing that I did for the tank top version. And what that was 2 rectangles. To calculate the width, I divided my chest circumference by 2. I've got like half of it for the front, half of it for the back, okay? So divide that by 2 and then I multiplied it by 1.5 because you want it to be obviously quite bigger so that there's lots of room for it to scrunch up. And for the length, I did mine at 19. This is really up to you, like where you want things to hit. I like a slightly cropped fit, and there's gonna be a little ruffle at the bottom of it as well. So I just cut 2 of these, and now probably this is gonna be the most time intensive part. I just have to sit and shirr for a few hours. The shirring that I've done so far, I've left about 3/4 of an inch between each shirred line. I think that's a good amount where it's not like, wall to wall shirring, but it does create quite a tight fabric versus if you only shirr, a few lines, you'll get a puffy look, but there'll be quite a bit of gathering in between. I don't like that as much as like a tight top. I have 2 blue threads here, both of which do match the top because there are different shades of blue in it. I think I'm gonna go with the darker one. I just think that would look nicer. I feel like when in doubt, I usually go darker. I have lots of shirring thread because when I first learned how to do this, I didn't really know how much shirring thread you go through. So I went to this tiny showing shop and they had like 5 spools there or something, and I just bought all of them because they were like 80p. So I should have plenty of that. If you hadn't shirred before, first thing to know is that you need to roll your own bobbins or like wind them. You have to wind them yourself because the thread is elastic, and if you hook it up to a bobbin winder, it might like pull it as it winds it up, and that would make your tension weird. So be gentle, do it yourself. Realizing these are like different levels of thickness. I didn't realize that when I bought that. I like this one better. That's gonna be a little bit tighter. This is my second time shirring on this new sewing machine. The first time that I learned how to do this, I was doing it on an industrial machine, and that worked quite well because it was just so like hefty that I was like just running it through. And the first thing I shirred on this new machine was a top that I made for my friend for her birthday. And the top was quite a thin material, so I'm hoping that my tension problem had more to do with like using a regular sewing needle but being on quite thick fabric and trying to incorporate elastic thread. Like I think maybe that was more the issue. It did turn out fine. It just took a long time. I was having to like hand wind the end and the beginning of each row. This fabric is much more standard, a little bit thicker, so I'm hoping I don't have that problem now because yeah, if I can just like sit here and sew lines all afternoon, that'll go fast. But last project was a little frustrating. We'll call that 1. I'm gonna actually wind a few right now so that when I run out, I can just like grab another one. That is the most annoying part of sewing, is being right in the middle of something and then suddenly having to rewind your bobbin. Especially with these, because the thread is thick, it actually doesn't hold like that much on there. You run through them pretty quickly. I have to figure out what my like entertainment vibe is while I do this. I usually listen to music while I sew. I feel like I should switch it up and get to like podcasts or something as well, because sometimes when I do a big sewing project like this, I listen to the same album over and over again, just on repeat while I'm doing it. By the end of it, I'm kind of like sick of it because I've heard the song so many times. I don't know. Music I have been loving lately though, big into Magdalena Bay. I saw this record in a record store here in London, and honestly I just really liked the cover, so I took a picture of it and was like, oh, this looks cool. school, I'll listen to it when I get home. I'd never heard of them before. And it's an amazing album. It's such a good vibe. And they actually just came out with a little 2-song EP as well. That's more recent and that's very good. I've been really liking this shirred album lately. I knew a few of the songs because years ago when Grace and I got together, she put some of them on a playlist for me. I'd never gone back to actually listen to more of their music or like the full album, and I did recently, and that's a good vibe. All these old bobbins wound up from projects, I mean, literally years ago, and they all just have a little bit of thread left, and I don't even have the matching spools to go with them because I left them in the States when I moved. All knotted up in this little tin. When I first started sewing in London, I didn't use these because they were plastic bobbins, and the sewing machine I was using at the studios at the time needed metal ones. I should probably take a day and like clear out these bobbins. I just haven't yet. Okay, let's get this hooked up. I wound a few. This is my first time using a home sewing machine that is front loading with the bobbin, which is quite nice because I feel like I can get a good look at like what's going on in here. I find that I just have this front part off all the time anyway because I'm always having to reach in to get the bobbin in and out, especially for shuring because you just have to change the bobbin so often. Maybe if I was doing like a longer project, I'd feel differently. But put that on to have a little bit bigger of a table. Okay, and then I'm going to increase my stitch length to the longest length. My understanding is that the longer the stitch, the more fabric there is to scrunch up in between it. And I have a pretty medium tension, like right in the middle going. Scissors. I love my little swirly chair to be able to go around and get my supplies all over the studio. We're in business. I can absolutely sit here and do that. My worry was that, yeah, there was going to be some weird tension something, but it actually looks great. If you haven't shirred before, all I'm doing to do this is basically sew normally. So I have a normal thread threaded through the machine, but then I have elastic thread in the bobbin. That means on the top of the piece, it will be my normal thread. It'll be the color that matches my fabric, but on the back of the piece, you'll see elastic thread, but it's going to help things scrunch up. Long stitch length, normal tension, and sewing as normal. So I back stitch at the beginning and end of each row. As I sew, I just make sure I'm pulling the fabric a little bit so that the needle is going straight into fabric. It's not going into any folds, especially as more shirred lines get on there. Okay, sewing with one hand and filming with another, but I just wanted to show like how I'm pulling it out like this, so it keeps sewing straight. Back stitched, and that's a second one done. I think shirring is so pretty. I just love immediately how like cool that looks, and especially with the plaid, the way it looks different when it's a little bit scrunched up versus when it pulls a bit. And then here's the back, so you can see that line of elastic thread. I'm just gonna keep going down 3/4 of an inch between each of these and do that across the entire panel. And I'm gonna time how long it takes because I'm wondering, yeah, just how fast I can do that now that I'm not a beginner with it anymore and it's going well on my machine. Just made an exciting discovery. I'm, I think 6 lines in. I just had to switch bobbins for the first time. So yeah, one lasted me about 6 lines across. And I was going to use my measuring tape that I've been using to measure the distance between each of the rows. And then I realized I have one right here on my sewing machine. I realized it because, like I said, I haven't been putting this front plate on. That is so nice. I can just like hold it right here and see that my next one should be right about there. First panel done, and honestly, I'm killing it. Here are all the things that are going perfectly with this. I did all this in about 25 minutes, which is way faster than I expected. I thought it was gonna be more like 45 minutes a panel. I perfectly used up the 3 bobbins that I had wound on this. I literally pulled out the last of it when I cut my last line. I was all prepared to do that, and I'll wind another 3 for the next one. I sewed 20 shirred lines down and left about 3.5 inches for the ruffle, and obviously that will be a little bit less because it'll get rolled up to finish it, but looking good. Exactly like I was hoping. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Pre-roll my bobbins again because that was very helpful. Kept me moving last time. I'm gonna take a break in a minute and go to a cute coffee shop with Grace, starting the Artist's Way, which is this like 12-week series I'm gonna do separate videos about, but it's all about like connecting with your inner artist, and you do all these different exercises, like you journal every day, go on these things called artist dates, and it's something you can do solo, but both my partner and I are interested in doing it, so we're gonna kind of like work on this stuff throughout the week on our own, and then go to a coffee shop every weekend to just kind of like discuss what we were reading, what we were thinking about, which I think will be fun to have someone to kind of bounce ideas off of course, and kind of make each other accountable to doing it, because I've tried to start this 2 times before. I think it's gonna stick this time though. In the past I just like was not in, I think, a stable enough place to put in the amount of time that you need to, but I've been very excited for this. I read all the intro stuff, and I think it's gonna be a fun way to get to know new coffee shops around London as well. We're trying to, kind of make it fun, like we'll go to a different one every time. Okay, 3 new bobbins ready to go. I am kind of getting low on this one. I hope it lasts for my sleeves. Obviously, I'll need less of it for those. I feel like it would bother me if I started switching to, even on the inside, having a different color thread, which it doesn't make sense because it's on the inside, you don't know, but I just think it would look so nice to have it all be like nice and lined up and perfect tension and all the same color thread. We'll see. A few hours later, I had a little sweet treat and made my second panel. Ta-da! I have 2 of these, and now it's time to figure out the sleeves. This is not gonna be a very official sleeve piece, like I'm not using a sleeve pattern piece. When it comes to like the curve of the shoulder, I haven't quite decided what I'm gonna do yet because these are obviously just squares. Like I didn't make a top piece that has any sort of like armhole shaping. I brought in the Opera Studios dress to kind of take a look at it. I really like the length of this sleeve, so I'm probably just gonna do about the same. Post it for my measurements. From the shoulder down, it's about, let's say, 9.5 inches. Armpit down, that's 3 inches. And the ruching starts about 4 inches down from very peak. It's been a while since I've put sleeves on anything. I don't have like a pattern piece printed out that I'm going to use, but I used to do a lot of gathered sleeves, so I kind of remember somewhat of the ballpark of like measurements and shape that I'm going for. I think what I'm going to start by doing is seeing how big it like has to be. So it needs to fit my shoulder and then measure that by 1.5, which is the same amount that I increased the part that was on my chest, times 1.5. You guys, I've been doing math analog lately. I've been challenging myself to not use like my calculator app to do just like little calculations. Like when I'm budgeting or I'm measuring or I'm figuring out something for a pattern, post it. I've gotta stay sharp. I'm just gonna cut out a big rectangle and then try to do some shaping right onto the fabric piece because I don't have big paper to figure it out ahead of time. So I'm going with the biggest measurement that I need. So at its height, the sleeve that I want is 10 inches. And then the width is that 1.5 times my shoulder measurement. I don't know if that's like technically the most important measurement for sleeve, but it's one that I'm always worried about. I hate like anything that's too tight around my shoulders. Big, wide rectangle. Now I'm going to try to get a bit of a curve going down here. So from the armpit to the end of the sleeve, that was just 3 inches. So I'm gonna make a little snip there going from the bottom. And then I need to make a bit of a curve. Okay, I should be showing this differently. Okay, here's my piece of fabric. Ignore that I should have ironed it. Shirring covers up any wrinkles. Okay, I made a little snip here. That's about 3 inches from the bottom of my sleeve. And I'm going to cut a bit of a curve going up. Not a very deep one because I do want most of this to stay there. It needs to be long so that I have plenty to gather at the cap of the sleeve. Just kind of approximating how big I want my armhole to be. I'll give it a little measure to make sure that we hit that correctly. Don't try this at home. I'm definitely just cutting into the fabric without like making any marks. Honestly, it looks really good. Let's see if it measures correctly. I'll take it. Check me out. That's a pretty good looking line there. To make it even, I'm just gonna fold this in half and use this side as a template to, obviously I'll lay it out better, but like to cut the same on this side and then to cut a second sleeve. My little haphazard DIY sleeve pattern. I think this is gonna work though. I mean, obviously the gathering and the shirring hides, you know, any imperfections. This is not a exact situation, but I have 2 of those. I'm just going to get on with doing the same shirring to these, but I'm gonna start 4 inches down from the cap. That this can be all fluffy and scrunched up, and I'll do just going down the same every 3/4 of an inch, shirring a line. Okay, 1 sleeve done. And at first when I started, I was like, did I get the measurements completely off or is the shape gonna be weird? But looking at it now, I think this is gonna be good. Grace was just in here and I was kind of like lining up the pieces to show her how the top is gonna look, and it's looking really cute. Let me show you. So we've got the top here, and then this will be like a little puff there and come off like that. For today, I think we are losing daylight. I'm hungry, I wanna go make dinner. So I'm just going to shirr this second sleeve, and then tomorrow I'll put everything together, which I hope will go pretty quickly. It really is the shirring that's just, you know, takes the afternoon. I'm just thinking like right now, getting the serger out, getting everything like ready to be finished off. I think I'll have more fun if I do it tomorrow. So See you then. It's the next morning. I'm here with my pieces. Looking good. And I'm gonna try to stitch them together just super quickly. I have my 2 sleeves. The first one that I did and already showed you had all blue thread, and on the second one I ran out of my elastic thread and I had to go to the black one that I had, and I can feel that it's not quite as tight. It's still shrunk down quite a bit, so I think once it like stretches around my arm, it'll still have like the desired look. I have my 2 body pieces here, and I'm gonna start by putting them together at the shoulders. I think I'll just do about 3 inches on either shoulder with like a zigzag stitch so that I can make sure I'm pulling this apart. I need to get a new bobbin going in the bottom here because I actually haven't wound one with this navy thread yet. I thought when I was sewing that if I was gonna have any tension problems, it was going to be with the elastic thread, but just only on the second sleeve, I was starting to have issues with my top thread snapping. Like I would be sewing and then all of a sudden it would just like snap and not be in the needle anymore. And sometimes I feel like this stuff happens where something just like keeps going wrong and I don't know why. Like it wasn't an issue at all the first, entirety of the top that I made, and then all of a sudden it snapped like 10 times as I was trying to shirr the second sleeve. And I was like, well, I'm not doing anything differently. Maybe I just like need to get better at knowing different things about machines and how to like diagnose where a problem like that is coming from. But sometimes I feel like I'm a really strong sewist, and then sometimes stuff like that happens and I'm like, wow, I feel like I never actually learned, like how to address things or prevent things. I kind of just know how to do things when everything's going well, and sometimes some stuff happens and I'm just like, well, I guess that's just happening. I don't have a solution to it. And let's do a zigzag stitch as well. Pretty long, not so long. Pretty wide, not so wide. I don't know, just want to get like a bit of stretch in there. I just pinned 3 inches on either side for the shoulders. I feel like that's a good amount. Shoulders are together and I just serged around like the neck and the shoulders and everything, but I need to do over the head test. Okay, passed. So to keep moving on, I think I'm gonna do sleeves next. I'm gonna start by gathering the top of each sleeve, and then I can just lay it down on either side. So on my sleeve, I'm gonna switch back to a straight stitch. That's quite long to do the gathering, and I'm not gonna do any of the like curved part. I'm gonna go just across the top, not backstitch at the end, so that I can pull on it to gather things together. Look how pretty this is. Little sleeve cap, little ruffle. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Okay, so I'm just gonna lay this out here. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm seeing the top inside out, and you can see how cute the shape is gonna be. You can see I've pinned it all in place. There's a little bit at the end here where I'll sew up next. I'm just gonna go all the way around that sleeve cap and do the same thing on the other side as well. Guys, okay, inside attached. We've done it. I haven't finished it off yet, but I was just so exciting watching that get flipped out. It's gonna be perfect. Shoulders attached and serged. I've pinned up the sides so I can sew down each of those, and then I'm just going to serge and fold under each of these hems. So I'm thinking we're like 15 minutes out here. I just flipped the neckline back and finished that off. It had already been serged. But look how sweet the shape is. Even from inside out, I feel like I can just tell this is gonna be perfect. Yeah, check it out. Finished look. Okay, so it is a bit short. Like, I didn't mean for it to be this short. I think it's gonna work. I'm a high-waisted jeans girl. Most of my jeans are this tall, so like, it does work. That's the only thing that didn't go quite to plan. However, I'm still super into it. What I'm most excited about are the sleeves. Look, the little puff up there. I want to try styling it. I'm going out to dinner tonight, so why not wear my new top I just made? I think I usually, with fabric like this, go with a darker pant, so I have these same jeans but in black that I'm going to put on. I'm going to try to do like an old school YouTube transition, okay? So we got these pants and these ones. Okay, no idea if that worked. It is so high-waisted and the shirt is so short. I'm going to use it as an opportunity to do a little fun belt. I have this cheetah one that I love. I love mixing prints, plaid and animal print, why not? I don't think there's any like rule of styling those. I think you just have to be like willing to own it and be like, yeah, I'm wearing something that doesn't really go together, but they're both cute things, so that can be enough. And then how about we add a chunky necklace? I'm gonna go try to find some shoes and also look in the mirror because honestly I can't really tell if this is working here. I decided that the necklace was too much, which I never say. I'm always down for like just more accessories and stuff, but I just felt like the pattern clash was cute, but the necklace added like a little too much. So this is what we're looking like. I added some chunky silver earrings, and I'm choosing between these shoes. I feel like the fun choice is silver flats. I love a sock with a flat. I have lots of like little silver in the outfit that I feel like it could match with. Okay, number one. And then I feel like the safer choice is these black boots, which are super cute. They have like a super unique toe and heel shape. They're from Vagabond. There we go. Option two. I just tried them both on again, and I think it has to be the boots. The flats are fun. I think they work, but they're just like a little funky. And I don't know, I think the like extra height of the heel adds a little something to the silhouette. I don't know. Then I already know what I want to do for accessories. My favorite accessory combo of the moment. I got this red coat on Vinted. I think it might be some sort of rain jacket-y something. I don't know. It wasn't really marketed as that. But it's definitely not like a pleather situation. Another amazing Vinted find, because I didn't get silver in my shoes, I'm gonna add some here. This is a Topology bag. This brand that I've had my eye on for a while. They have a shop on Brick Lane that's super cool, because basically what you do is you pick out these bags and then these straps. You can like mix and match with them, and they're all these like climbing ropey kind of things. Anyway, one of the ropes can be like 80 pounds. So I was like, let me just see if I can find these on Vinted. A ton of people are selling them on there. This one was new with tags on, but I got it for like 30 or 40 all together, I think. Super cool, like flap opening here. I can stick my phone in there. There's just so many like tactical fun pockets. A little bit of red to match the jacket and the plaid. What do we think? I should put it on like the back. I think that's cute. I like it. Obviously the jacket needs to come off because I'm not even showing off the shirt in all of its glory. But I'm gonna call that a day, I'm gonna call that a look. Well, more like call it a 2-day sewing project, but I would say that was relatively simple and pretty much a success. I feel like I could definitely take what I've done here, add on a bubble skirt, like I said, hypothetically make my dream dress. For now, it'll just have to be that I've made my dream top. Subscribe to see more sewing vlogs. I'm feeling very inspired with my autumn to make list, which I think was one of my most recent videos, and I've already made one of the major things on that list. So stick around to see what comes next. Hope you have a good day. Bye!